Being from a publicly polled rather than a beer judge was just a little bit even, I guess, a sidestep of special. Yeah, it was
felt really good. We didn't really expect it at all. So we've kind of restarted things the last 6 months here, and to come so far to be nominated for People's Choice it was amazing.
Attempted the beer several times at home with massive fails, like trying to steep Hubba Bubba in a pot and extract all the flavour out of it.
Yeah, no, this one's quite nice too. I do like the sours, they're probably my favourite. I, for one, I hate the bubblegum sour. I think this needs to stop.
It's not competitive. It's really inclusive. There's something about it that really draws me in. You know, everyone's really good.
Pete Weldon and Luke Ronalds, Currumbin Valley Brewing.
The winner, Beery's Best Brewer 2019 is Scotty Hargrave, Bolton Brewing Company.
Everyone has their own experiences, and for mine it's been incredible. I feel glorified. I feel like everywhere I go I'm on a red carpet. And any woman in this industry is killing it. Yeah.
Back in Stanthorpe, the new lights were up, and I was off to find out just how bright the future for Possum Lane would be. On the way, I was going to meet one of the local brewers already using Rick's produce. My impending excitement was, however, a little subdued, as the long drawn-out drought had set the stage for catastrophic weather events.
It seems to be getting drier and drier out here by the minute, and the Stanthorpe region officially ran out of drinking water over a month ago. The fires that ripped through the region a few weeks ago claimed multiple homes. They stretch from the granite belt all the way back down to the far northern regions of the Gold Coast hinterland, and on the day of the Crafted Festival, one of the Gold Coast's most iconic landmarks, the Binnaburra Lodge, was reduced to a pile of rubble.
In some cases, tin from rooftops is all that can be recognised.
All things considered, I think I'm pretty lucky that I've still got a farm and a brewery to go and visit.
The local brewer also happened to be part of the local fire service. Perhaps a stroke of luck, considering just how close his business came to being wiped out by the fires that devastated so much of the region. I met Jeff at an event held for him and his firefighting colleagues, both a fundraiser and a simple reason for locals to gather and show their appreciation for those who had put themselves in danger and fought to preserve local homes and livelihoods.
Yeah, so we're just putting on a bit of a gig here and trying to get everyone as much as we can to appreciate the fireys for what they've done. You know, with the amount of heat and just the realness of that, I just can't even imagine. You know, that was just horrific work for what the boys done. So we thought we'd put on a big gig and you know, yeah, big appreciation for what they've done for their town. So yeah. Jeff at Happy Valley, you know, he's nearly lost his whole business just in seconds, you know, so lucky he's on the fire brigade there to help himself out, and the boys to help him out, so yeah, no, it was great.
You know anybody who actually lost their home?
Not personally, but yeah, a fair few homes were taken from it, so yeah, it wasn't good at all.
But the Stanthorpe locals were determined to turn a negative into a positive.
Yeah, so it's a good event. So they've got people coming in and out all day. So they're raising money for drought relief as well as for the Applethorpe Rural Fire Brigade. Never seen anything like this before? No, we've been involved in a few, but this was a large one coming, and the wind changed, and it was just the wind was the big fighting against us. It was everything they were expecting on that day, that Friday the 6th, and and the wind took off a very little flame and turned into something very large.
How close did it come to your property, to the brewery?
So it came to our fence line. Neighbours lost on our other side of our fence, lost sheds and tanks. but we weren't touched as such. So we had some backburn prepared early on during the year.
As lucky as they may have been, the firefighting memories were still lingering.
Oh mate, you know it through the town, yeah. You can see it, you can hear it. People don't like really getting into it, but yeah, it's not a good thing, and it was quite horrific with 30 to 40k winds. It puts the wind up anyone, so yeah. Being in the front line of it all and having that ash and the fires just peeling over top of you. One bloke had his visor pretty much melted, you know what, so that's hot. You don't deal with that, so yeah, huge.
Hearing the stories firsthand gave me a raw and unnerving perspective on just how lucky Jeff and his kin had been.
So a house was lost in the street below us, another house was lost in the street below that as well. But yeah,
in these parts, it takes more than luck to be successful. It takes real grit.
Yep, we supply the Brass Monkey Brew House, and that's where the whole journey began. And we've also sold a bit into the Granite Belt Brewery, Jeff Davenport, and we're hoping to sell a fair bit more into him.
Although to many the region has a reputation for being harsh, the Granite Belt Brewery's immediate surroundings provide a serene and charming welcome to a road-weary traveller.
So probably the first beer I had would probably be 4X, being in Queensland. But one of the things is I've always gone looking for different beers, even before we were involved in craft beer. If you're living in the UK, you've got a small pub and they'd have 5 or 6 beers on tap, and you go through them and I'd try every one of them.
But regardless of the location, the same rules apply everywhere when it comes to getting your brewery off the ground.
So it takes a while to get through the approval process for all levels of government, so local council, state, federal, to get approval. There's no easy way of doing it. You've got to do it and then get all your processes happening, and then hopefully you can get approval. You can't get pre-approval on certain things. We started doing small batch beers, and I knew I wanted to have a whole range of flavours. So that's why when we first opened up, we had 6 beers on tap, because we're just looking for things that just change perception of beers. One of our cooler beers was Kolsch, straight up. It's just easy. It's easy drinking. It's not too scary for people. Then we've done the Pilsner, just a lager. Then we did an India Pale Ale, a wheat beer, an Irish Red Ale, because I've got Irish in-laws, and a porter beer. And one of the things we did was we were conscious that we weren't putting labels on them as summer ales and lager. People come to our venue, it's slightly off the beaten track, and they can come up here. They've already made the decision to come into the brewery. They can then try different beers. So there's a whole range of flavours, and one of the things I always say is don't judge a book by its cover or a beer by its colour.
The region and its climate does, however, raise an inescapable issue. Out here, water is a commodity far too precious to waste, but it's also the only weapon against nature's fiery wrath.
We're in a pretty severe drought, so people are saying it's a 100-year drought. Locals haven't seen it this bad. There's springs that have always run are now drying up in our area, which is a concern just for our whole community. When we first opened up, I found out my cousin's father-in-law used to own a microbrewery in West Australia. Now he was only on tank water, so he designed his brewery for low water consumption, reuse things, chemicals as much as possible, and then reuse water as much as possible, and then release it. I contacted him, and Graham from Blackpool Brewery was just brilliant, and he came over and helped us design it that way. We were contacted by the council, and they said, "You're a tourist and an important employer for the area. We need you to keep on going, but we have to reduce our water usage." So we're looking at everything we do and reducing it down to weight. So we actually investigated contract brewing in Brisbane, but the whole logistics of freight back to here is prohibitive. We're actually investigating freighting water in for the brewery only, and sourcing it from a whole range of places. The issue is ensuring that the water quality is what we want, and ensuring that we can get a continuation of flow. So we investigated a whole range of options, but now that pressure's been taken off. We're not doing large amounts of brewing until it's needed. I'd hate to pull water resources from somewhere and then find out it rains and fills everything up, and it's put some pressure onto someone else. We're basically doing it just in time brewing. So we look at our schedules and adjusting them so that we run out, or almost run out of a beer, and then it comes back on just in time. It's something we've got to do. We're in the community. We've got to adjust to that.
If the fundraising event hadn't provided me with enough perspective on the disaster, leaving the highway and driving up to the brewery definitely did. The roadside still bared the scars of the inferno that threatened to level the enclave of houses. Just metres further up the road, front yards still remain scorched, right up to people's front doorsteps. It was a harrowing image, and one that I felt I had no choice but to leave out of the screen time.
9th September this year, a fire started a couple of k's from us, 2 roads away, and it came towards us. The fire came right up to our back fence. Neighbours lost sheds, tanks, that's neighbours on our fence line, lost all that. We weren't actually touched as such, so we were blessed that way. People further down neighbouring road lost a house. Sheds and tanks were lost, but no one lost their line.
Billowing above vineyards and orchards, and again bearing down on Applethorpe, the fire pushes on, fanned by fierce dry winds. I'm in the Rural Fire Brigade, so I was working that night with the Rural Fire Brigade, and we got reports that possibly we'd lost our whole business and the brewery had burnt down. And I actually sent a text to my wife saying, I think it's gone, and you guys are safe, the guests are safe, whatever happens is whatever happens. An inferno bearing down on the town of Stanthorpe. Hills ablaze, embers and smoke thick in the air. Up close, firefighters faced the storm head-on, holding it back from destroying the town. Day shows the near miracles they achieved. Scores of homes and businesses dodged destruction, but some were impossible to save.
But the work that the Rural Fire Brigade did and the Queensland Fire Brigade, as well as the police evacuating people, was just amazing. You're driving up our hill and you can see how close it's got to houses, and some people have had their front steps singed, but the house is still there, and that is just amazing. And just the effort that people put into to protect someone else's property, it's just unbelievable.
Fearless pilots dive bombing with the scarce water the drought-ravaged region has left.
It literally landed at the back door of this business.
It did, yes. So we've had fire all the way around it. So on Saturday morning, so I basically finished at about 3 or 4 in the morning from the fires, and we had to start again at 7. So I drove up here and expecting the worst, and it wasn't even touched, so it was just a miracle.
Inside the venue, I was struck once again with a feeling of fortune, knowing how close the building around me had come to being burned to cinders. And the English influence that Jeff had mentioned earlier was on display in the form of a traditional hand pump that took pride of place behind the bar. It was there I was treated to one of the most unique beers I'd come across yet.
This is the one. This is the Irish barrel. How long was it in a barrel for? 3 months.
and Irish ale, infused with flavour after spending 3 months in a Merlot wine barrel.
We're still working with Rick to find out how he's doing it. He's evolving all the time. He's doing research all the time. That's what we want. You're looking for the perfect environment, but it's not going to happen. So last season, we bought some hops from Rick just so we could show people how it was. And the drought hit, but then we weren't allowed to water them. But Rick would have been in the same situation. And Rick's organic, which should be boggling my mind to keep something organic. But that's what his passion is. So he comes and sees me and says, well, what do you want? I said, well, what have you got? We'll work with you. So if you find that the season is not good for Cascade, but it's good for Galaxy, we'll work around that. Because his hops, the aromatic side wasn't ideal, the way it was dried, we use hops in his first work hops, and then we're waiting for his next season when he's got his drying process better. And the other thing is that Rick is encouraging other people to give it a try as well. He's working with another crowd in Brisbane, Hilltop. He said, oh, look, if I got more people in the area to do hops, it's great. He's always evolving, so that's what we want, and we're trying to do things differently here all the time. And so, he's not stagnant. He's seeing what people are doing, he's talking to other people about what they're doing, which is just brilliant. And as he improves his process, the hops will get better and we'll use more of them. There's going to be naysayers and everything. We had Woolwich put a brewery in a wine region. It doesn't have 4 X's on it. It's not a real beer. Craft beer won't last long. The ones in Brisbane won't last long. But there's always someone else that'll go jump on it.
Gotta make sure it hasn't gone because we can pull it out.
Rick and his wife Mary had their hands full before the hops came along. With 3 dogs and a pre-existing business, the couple already had plenty of the Darling Downs dirt underneath their fingernails. But Rick had ideals on something bigger, and he was going to great lengths to achieve it.
Well, the trip to Florida and Washington State was really instructive, and we've definitely got to invest in lighting, and I've just placed an order today for the bulbs, and water is the other issue up here. We're in a record-breaking drought, so we're hoping for a decent drop of rain between now and Christmas, so we'll get the dams half full and we'll be able to give them a drink for the entire season.
How long did it take you to get up?
Oh, we've been working on it for the entire week, but it's all in place. We finished it last night and turned it on for the first time, and I've got to say it's pretty impressive. I think it'll do the trick. So the regime we're going to use is what they call interruption. So we're going to turn them on from midnight to 1:30 a.m. And we'll do that probably in another 6 weeks when they reach 300 to 400 millimetres. We'll keep that going for 6 to 8 weeks. When they start to mature, the laterals go out and the flowers are just starting to go. We'll turn the lights off and they should all flower at the same time, and that'll enable us to do a single pass harvest, which will make the whole operation more efficient, more economic.
Like all full-scale agricultural practices, there's a sweet science to getting it right. Made even more important by the fact that hops have the potential to grow extremely fast.
So mate, what we've got here is the emerging plants, the vines, and we've got, these will be about 4 days old. What we need to do next is basically cut the 3 strongest ones, let the others emerge, and what we want is 3 or 4 really strong ones going up the twines. When they get to about this level, that's when we'll turn the lights on, and from then they'll shoot up, and when they're on a roll, they'll grow 6 inches a day, which is pretty phenomenal.
Baby, gonna stamp your foot on the ground so hard, gonna make it crack. Baby, gonna clap your hand, gonna clap so loud like a thunderclap. Baby, gonna melt the sun, gonna cut it up with stars and eat it up. Baby, gonna cut the knot to the left and right, taste to the right.
So they'll be up pretty well at the top of the 5 metre line in 6 weeks. Once the laterals come out, that's when we'll turn the lights off.
Six inches a day, that's a lot.
Yeah. No, we measured last year because I sort of observed it, but a mate of mine said, 6 inches, you've got to be joking, but we did actually measure it and they were growing 6 inches a day when the weather's warm and there's plenty of water. But we'll see how they go this year with the drought. But we're confident we can get a good harvest off them with the lights, and you can see I've done a lot of mulching here, and that helps with water retention, and provided the dam holds and the winds aren't too hot and strong, I reckon we're in with a fighting chance to get a really good crop off this year.
The lights alone wouldn't cut it. The weather would have to cooperate. I wondered how much water the operation would require. More importantly, where would it all come from?
Oh, look, we're self-sufficient, so we don't draw from the town, so it's entirely up to us how much we use. And you can see we're not growing any parsley, and we've cut way back on the amount of veggies. So what water we do have, we're keeping these alive, and our trees as well, our perennial crops. And the parsley's a big hit in terms of income, so we've really got to make these guys work, so we can salvage some of the income this next season.
It seemed like Rick was putting himself under a lot of pressure. But I wasn't here to speculate. I'd come for a spectacle. Now I just had to stick around. And sure enough, after the sun went down, it was lights, camera, without all the action.
All right. Very impressive, Mr. Humphreys. I like it.
Yes, it was impressive. But just how exactly was all this new fandangled setup going to work again?
Well, we've got 85 lights here. They're a red spectrum horticultural light. 11 watt bulbs, so our solar system should be able to support them. They go on from midnight to 1:30 in the morning, about 8 weeks after the plants reach about 300 millimetres, and we'll see whether it works. It's all based on research out of Florida, where they're trying to augment the number of daylight hours, because like us, they're a bit short. They're about 3 hours shy of the optimum, so they're using horticultural lights to make up the difference, and we hope it'll work for Queensland, and this could be the beginning of establishing a viable hop industry in this fine state.
It's starting to look a bit more like a football field than a farm.
Yeah, well, it's there's no doubt the neighbours will be, we'll have to get around and have a chat to the neighbours about what's going on, and we might even alert the local constabulary as well, because this is a legitimate crop, not the other nocturnal crop that requires lighting.
Aside from any impending inquiries from his neighbours or the boys in blue, it looked like Rick was on the right track to pull in his first bumper crop, and any issues he may have had in the past just might have been put to bed. Back on the Gold Coast, Black Hops 2 in Bigger Waters was being staged for a special brew day, as one Brisbane craft beer aficionado was getting ready for a brewing experience that looked set to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
How's things, mate?
Good, really good.
Yeah?
Very excited.
I bet you are.
Yeah.
Is this a once-in-a-lifetime moment?
Oh, I hope it's not once in a lifetime, but it's pretty good up until this point.
Yeah.
Today's brew day at Black Ops 2, but not just any brew day. Today, Tony van der Linden finally gets to make his collaborative brew in one of the best systems in town.
And with all his own experience in creating recipes, Tony had brought out the big guns.
Yeah, it's a IPA with a twist. Assuming that's still the beer that we're making today, and Govs doesn't have different ideas, but he seemed pretty keen on the idea. Double dry hop Chinook rye IPA. Inspired by childhood memories of Chinook helicopters going over my house, carrying great big artillery pieces underneath them, looking up into the sky in awe. So I hope the beer does that memory justice as well.
And in classic homebrewer fashion, Tony had also brought samples.
What did you bring for him to try?
A pretty fresh New England IPA and a raspberry saison and a imperial stout. So raspberry saison and the stout, probably 6 to 12 months old each, but tasting really good. Yeah.
Wow, you've been busy. Huh?
Oh yeah, I like to brew. That's what I do.
In the fridge for later?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe not too much later. Mate, I was really excited when Tony sent me the recipe through for today's brew. Big hoppy, Chinook-based rye IPA. I mean, what's not to love about that? We haven't done a rye IPA before, so that was really exciting. And the Chinook hops also lend pretty well into the Black Ops brand as well.
As far as the preparation goes, it soon became obvious that these two were planning on brewing with a military precision. And you can bet that all that planning was going to make for something strong and bitter.
We'll kind of just load this in and that'll be our starting point. Yeah. We source our ingredients from all around the world, but the majority of our core ingredients, like our barley, come from just outside of Toowoomba. And it's a product called Border Malt, which we were lucky to be a part of releasing here in Australia. And it's also malted just down the road in Brisbane, so really local supply. We've been able to connect with not just the growers, but the maltsters, and have a lot of input into how that product's handled. Yeah, just kind of like even it up, like OCD, my numbers. The choc rye wasn't essential. It could have just been choc, but since I was going rye, I thought I'd got it up. I've got it. Yeah, so that's cool. Probably coming about 6.6, 6.7, mid to high 50s, 90s, which is good. So then I'll have to transfer this over into our software. Mm-hmm. So I'll load that up and also do some calculations on the chemistry. Yep. To get our mash pH. Yep. And sulfates and all that stuff. Yeah, cool. So I'll load that in now. I'll print this out as a bit of a picking slip, so you and Gaz can go and get all the ingredients ready. Yeah.
Professional brewer Gaz would help Tony gather the required inventory, initiating him into the Black Ops front line.
What does your morning involve?
So this morning, just basically setting everything up. So switching on the boiler, heating it up, firing it up, getting the hot liquor moving, and so we get it up to temp, ready for mash in. Priming up the mash tun, so just rinsing it out, making sure there's nothing that's floated in there. Just heat it up a little bit before we start mashing.
The newly acquired second shed that lay empty in my previous visit just a few weeks prior was now home to the first few pallets of ingredients. A brew this size required more than just careful planning to put together. Tony also had to put his back into it. But he knew exactly what he had in front of him, and he wasn't going to be breaking into a sweat in a hurry. On the contrary, he was here to show off his craftsmanship.
Bit of choc rye in the mix.
I'm getting thirsty just watching you, mate.
And as expected, Gaz looked pretty comfortable with the process.
You're smashing it raw there, Gaz.
Beautiful. Delicious.
With ingredients in hand, they headed back across the yard. And it was time for Tony to start taking notes, as Govs and Gaz put the Black Hops Brewhouse through its paces.
So the beer that we made, we called CH47. So it was inspired by my childhood growing up in Townsville and seeing the big Chinook helicopters fly over Mum's house. So we used a whole lot of Chinook hops and a fair bit of rye, which is one of my favourite sort of alternative grains to use in a beer, and made a big sort of piney, resiny, old school rye IPA. To see the kit that they use, to touch it and smell it and be able to use it, it's the biggest brew system that I've ever used. The milling and grain transport system that they've got there is super cool. And to have Govs there to explain, I guess, not just what all the gear does, because, you know, the process is sort of the same, but just all of the little tweaks and things that they do differently because they brew at that volume was very interesting.
While the machinery did its work, there was time for a break. It hadn't become thirsty work yet, but there was more than enough time for a beer and a slightly more casual look at the facility. Govs had recently returned from an American business trip, and the conversation soon turned to the chosen aesthetics for the Black Hops new tap house.
Any favourite venues from the US or areas? Oh, there was just so many, and they all had kind of different vibes. Yeah. But like the one thing they all had in common is when you walked in there, you just felt like you were at somewhere special, and it was like a real privilege to be there, get to try the beer fresh at the source, and just get really looked after. So we kind of wanted to bring that feeling. Also, like having some tanks on display, so the guys could sit in, come in, have a beer, and sit literally right next to the tank, so the beer fermenting. And these are our pilot systems, so that's where all our fun stuff happens. So it's a really good talking point for them and the bar staff to engage them and say, hey, this is what we're doing, and stuff like the beer.
The remainder of the afternoon would require some patience on Tony's part. It was a waiting game that Govs was all too familiar with. Well aware of Tony's interest in the craft, Govs was happy to pass the time by filling him in on the finer details of how a big setup operated. A closer inspection of the brew deck gave Tony a final overview of exactly where his custom brew would come together. Then it was time for some final checks before pumping the beer into the fermenter. Tony's end product would go into several kegs headed for a venue in Brisbane. But this brew was a walk in the park compared to the output that the Black Hops facility had become capable of and could perhaps quickly outgrow.
So our canning line has been absolutely pumping this year. It's been something that I've been working on really closely on improving quality, also upping the output. One of the big bottlenecks for us has been labelling. We have to stop every 20 minutes or so to change labels, make sure that the labels are straight, and on every can has been difficult. So we've just recently switched over to full printed cans, which is really exciting. The cans look phenomenal, and they just streamline that, make the guys' job a lot easier.
Sales rep Darren was letting us in on a little secret.
At the moment, you only got about a third of that.
The brand was about to put its beer into new packaging.
Really make us pop.
You're not putting black lids on those ones?
No, core range got silver lid, limited release got black lids.
Yeah.
The solution beyond that was to sit there. A lot of people do a box of it, so it's a shit job and it's quite inefficient. So the technology for putting products into boxes and gluing it exists. It's not new.
But
however, it's all on big
massive scale, yeah.
So I kind of like searched around the world to find something like this. And I couldn't find one anywhere, so I went to Fibre King and said, "You guys have got the tech. Would you be interested in making something for craft beer?" Because at the moment everyone's got glue guns. And
For Tony, the 2-hour train ride down from Brisbane was proving to be well worth it.
Have you learned anything today? It's a pretty big system.
Have I learned anything? Yeah, heaps. Yeah, I guess the main thing is just how simple home brewing is, really. When you look at how these guys have to do it on this scale, it's pretty incredible. Lots of little interesting bits of tech that they use to do stuff. Yeah, just an awesome day. Great fun. Good beers.
First of many?
Maybe.
Maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Govs was pretty excited about your recipe.
Yeah, that was cool. That was really cool. But that's one of my favourite parts of the whole thing, right? Is recipe creation as well, and getting to drink it naturally. But
didn't have to do the hard sell. He was into it.
Yeah, but and the creative process of just coming up with the recipes, I get a lot of enjoyment out of. So I hope it all comes together. I feel like the rye is a little bit interesting. The rye is a bit of an interesting flavour, and I think that the Chinook hops are going to complement that really well. Spicy, a bit dank. It's all going to come together, I think. Yeah.
3 weeks, mate.
3 weeks. 3 weeks. A couple of bars lined up in Brisbane to take some kegs.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. Places that I like to go and drink good beer.
Yeah.
Be able to go and drink a good beer that I had something to do with. So that'll be
the benefit of all your years of building relationships through the pub.
Yeah.
Tony and Black Hops had finally joined forces, and the champion brewer had achieved a new status. With a pre-existing theme in place, his brew would become part of a welcome alliance. As the fresh new IPA was pumped into the chosen tank, Tony was given the honour of writing up his own chalkboard. A ceremony witnessed by a group of visitors from far north New South Wales, just before their own impromptu look behind the scenes. Then it was time to cap off the day's events. A pretty cool thing to witness, as Tony's new fan base helped him celebrate his result. I do have to say, however, lucky for Tony, it wasn't an art competition. For the smaller brands still establishing themselves, the priority on brewing meant that other critical infrastructure often came a distant second best. At Los Palms, Chris Smith had taken off his brewer's hat yet again to remedy two issues: where they stored their cold beer and where they would accommodate a growing number of patrons.
So what's the plan up here over the next couple of days? Finish painting carpet?
No carpet, paint the floor for now. Just get some furniture in for the weekend, and then that's pretty much as far as we'll probably get. And then start doing some bench tops, build a little bar and stuff, but just getting it up to scratch at the moment.
The brand was getting a strong local following, and even a quick lick of paint meant eating into precious time away from the brew deck.
Have you caught up with all your brewing?
Yeah, all the tanks are full.
But Chris was ahead of the game.
And the pool table up here, you reckon?
Yeah, I hope so.
And you've got a rating for how many people you're allowed up here?
I don't know, probably fit about 50 people with a square meterage rate, but...
Going by averages?
Yeah, it's just an overflow really at the moment, especially for Australia Day. And a few other events have been so big we don't really have enough seating. I'm not very good at painting though. It's just a base coat.
Painting may not have been Smithy's specialty, and that was okay.
There'll be painters watching, mate.
Although he took it pretty seriously, he was happily focused on brewing.
Yeah, so we rebrewed the beers for QABC, the two winners. One was an American IPA and the other one was a Flanders Red. Flanders Red took 2 to 3 years to create, so we said we can't recreate it here in the time frame we had, so we came up with a different beer, and that's what we did, the cherry sour.
Always keen to show off his wares, Chris decided that it was tasting time. And with all my years in liquor retail, I knew the importance of product knowledge.
What do you reckon?
Nice and tart.
Very tart. Those sour cherries, like there's no sweetness there. It's just the.
But it's not. It's like capped perfectly.
Yeah,
tart
it's good. It's
and
good.
dry. But all the fruit comes through in it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very smashable in summer.
Awesome. What's the alcohol?
3.8.
3.8.
Yeah.
I was most definitely impressed with the cherry sour, but the other brew Chris mentioned had left me with questions.
Why does it take so long to recreate? Flanders Red, because you're using like Brett and other bacteria to sour and flavour over a longer period of time. It's also like a barrel aged beer, so it needs that time to condition and really have its depth and flavour come through. So it's a beer that takes a very long time to create, and you can't do it over a 2-week, 3-week period. Way too busy. I'd love to do that type of stuff, but we just don't have the barrels or the room at the moment, so hopefully eventually.
Speaking of brew, how's the cold storage coming along?
It's coming along slowly. Got the unit we moved into this week, so now we're just waiting on the panels to show up, and we'll start building that, and hopefully next week get it in, and then maybe the week after have it all hooked up. So.
Until now, with the cold storage being directly behind you,
yeah.
It was what, 15 kilometres away? 15 kilometres away?
Yeah, 15 up in Labrador, so every time we needed beer, we had to run up there and drop it off. Worse for the sales guy, Zach, he had to go there, pick up beer and sometimes deliver to our area around here, so it's going to make it so much easier. It is what it is, it's not ideal, but everyone's got to deal with it, so.
We're pretty close to ideal now though.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, we can walk around the corner and drag kegs around, so it's good. A lot better.
That all-important storage would come together quickly if Smithy had anything to do with it. Salvaging second-hand equipment like this is common practice for small businesses in the need. The panels generally clean up well and are quickly reconstructed. An easy job for Chris the Chippy.
So we're just putting in a second-hand cold room. Cold storage is probably one of the biggest expenses we have at the moment, so we try to bring it all off-site. Bought all the panels second-hand and just chucking them together. We'll be able to fit 3 pallets wide by about 9 pallets long, double stacked, so we'll be able to produce a lot more beer and get it out to the people.
Things were looking positive for this group as 2019 wrapped up. But there was still one more highlight for me to top the year off.
A little bit dank, a little bit citrusy. Nothing too crazy at this point, but definitely want to do a bit more.
When we really struggled, it was a perfect storm of too high temperatures, no water.
I think either Bolter with their XPA or Stonewood with their Pack Ale. But well deserved, I think. That beer is so solid.
We've got 650 odd breweries in Australia. There's a lot of upside for independent beer.
That's right, we're 3 years in. It's taken us a little while since retailers like you to prove yourself in the market and like you to be around for a little while.
When the news came out and venues started closing down, it all happened very suddenly. So we, within a week, basically all the pubs and clubs, bars in the country had shut down. So we didn't know how that was going to affect off-premise sales in terms of bottle shops.
Have you got some good news for me?
Oh, we've always got good news, mate. We can make beer, we're fine.
I'll tell you the whole story.